Selfish Karen says I'm not fat enough for her wedding. I come from a family where drinking is the norm. I'm probably the only one that doesn't touch the stuff. But everyone wants me to start tying one on because they feel I owe it to my sister to start getting fat. Not only that, but they feel like staying at my current weight will ruin the most important day of my sister's life. I was the maid of honor at my sister's wedding. I was thrilled when she asked me, especially as we live in different countries, so I don't get to see my family that often. So I thought she might get a friend in that role. We spent a lot of time organizing things over the phone, but I decided to fly home to help out. I haven't seen my sister since Christmas, and while she has always been a little bigger than me, I was fairly shocked when a woman twice the size of the woman I remembered greeted me at the airport. I didn't say anything, and I didn't show the shock on my face. I know she's been having a hard time with drinking and depression, so I just carried on as normal. Everything was fine for the first few days, until I went with my sister to find a dress. She picked out one she loved, and we took a photo with the rest of the bridal party. It was while we were looking at this photo that my sister got very quiet. We thought she didn't like the dress after all, but she said that wasn't the case, and that she was just tired. It was a few days later when we went to have dinner with my mom and my sister, I found out what the issue was. My sister didn't like how big she looked next to me in the photo, and with the wedding only a few months away, she didn't have time to lose any weight. So they asked me to gain weight for the wedding so my sister wouldn't feel uncomfortable on her big day, as everyone else in the bridal party was also on the larger side. To say I was stunned was an understatement. I've always been underweight, and it wasn't until I turned 30 that I've been able to gain any weight at all. I'm now a healthy weight. My mom and sister took my silence as me needing encouragement. They said it would be easy to gain weight if I just started adding things to my food and took up drinking. I don't drink at all. I grew up with parents whose alcohol-fueled arguments put me off forever, and I've witnessed my sister's fight with alcohol and substance abuse since she was a teenager. I should mention that my family have been telling me I will get fat soon ever since I was 25, and they've always expressed resentment when I didn't put weight on. At this point, I feel I'm very justified in refusing to do this. Where I think I might have been a jerk is when they kept pressuring me to gain all this weight, and I eventually snapped and told them that just because they have let themselves go doesn't mean I have to compromise my health to boost my sister's self-esteem. My sister lost it and called me a jerk and told me not only that I was out of the bridal party, but I'm not allowed to attend the wedding as a guest either. It's been a few days, and I've had various people texting me that I'm being a jerk over making my sister feel shame about her weight. I don't know what they've been told about the exchange. I know depression is hard. I've been there, and I do feel really bad about snapping at my sister. Am I the jerk? Depression is hard, but the family was way out of line. Not just for telling the original poster to gain weight, but for suggesting she do it by drinking. Alcoholism isn't always genetic, but if this OP comes from an alcoholic family, there's a slightly higher chance that it might be genetic for her. And even if she doesn't have the gene, drinking extensively over a prolonged period of time, which she'd probably have to do if she wants to gain enough weight to more than double in size to match her sister, is exactly how you damage the brain enough to develop an addiction. Beyond that, it's just not okay to tell someone they have to alter their physical appearance for your wedding. If a person's presence at your wedding is that conditional, then it makes me wonder how much you truly care for them. Clearly, they matter less to you than the perfect wedding photo. This OP doesn't deserve that. Nobody deserves that. She's definitely not the jerk. As a side note, the comments on this post agreed that OP's in the right, but there's actually a problem with that. See, some think that this was a bait post meant to spark rage against fat people. It didn't work, but it did inspire commenters to crack jokes about people struggling with addiction. For no clear reason besides perhaps the sister's depression, they included people who cut themselves in the punchline as well. I can't believe I have to say this, but if you know someone who struggles with these issues, they need help more than they need your cheap jokes. Even if they're unkind, they still deserve to be healthy, and there's no telling how their personality may change once their mental health improves. But even if you choose to stay out of it, that doesn't mean it's something to laugh about. He thought it was a Jolly Rancher, but it was an STI. Steve and his girlfriend Samantha went off to college in August. She went to Florida State while he went to Penn, so she decides to fly to Pennsylvania to visit him. He was really happy to see her, so he decided to give her some oral action. He had done this numerous times before, and he always enjoyed doing it. But for some reason, this time she smelled really horrible, and she tasted even worse. He didn't want to offend her, though, because he hadn't seen her in months. So he put a Jolly Rancher in his mouth to cover it up, even though it didn't do much help. In the course of eating her love mutton, he accidentally pushed the candy inside of her and stuck a finger in to grab it out. He took it out and put it back into his mouth and bit it. Only it wasn't the Jolly Rancher. It was a nodule of gonorrhea, as in the blister-like structure that gonorrhea makes, filled with diseased pus. It was the size of a freaking Jolly Rancher, and the poor guy bit into it. I guess it was really dark in the room. He freaked out and started spewing all over the place when it exploded in his mouth. He demanded to know what was going on. As it turns out, she had cheated on him at a club during the first week of college and slept with some random guy. And the stupid biscuit had no clue what was wrong with her. She had noticed a strange smell, though. So now Steve is freaking out that he now has gonorrhea of the mouth and God knows what else. Well, that was wholesome. I guess I should provide a bit of context for this, since it reads a lot differently than our usual stories. This wasn't a self-contained post, but rather a comment on an Ask Reddit thread about people's most bizarre or disgusting bedroom encounters. This particular commenter chose not to share their own experience, but rather one they'd heard about. They didn't explain in the comment whether they knew one or both of these people. It actually sounds a bit like an urban myth, similar to the stories that get passed around between medical professionals. For instance, a hospital worker responded to the Jolly Rancher story with a tale about a cheating man who gave his own girlfriend the same STI, except he was making love to his girlfriend's stoma. If you're unaware, that's the abdominal opening some people have to use to get rid of waste when they can't do it the normal way. As one commenter put it, you could say he was getting some in on the side. If there's one thing that gives me faith in humanity, it's that the grammar and spelling on both these comments was impeccable. So at least I know they were typing with both hands. If you made it this far in the video, consider liking and subscribing for more videos coming. Another guy saw my girlfriend in the shower, but everyone's mad at me. My girl Lydia lives with a roommate who has a boyfriend, Jeff. We gathered at their place last Friday for pizza. After a while, Jeff asks Lydia if she's still scared of being here alone on nights her roommate goes over to his place and I can't come over. Lydia has always had trouble with being alone at night, and most nights I stay on FaceTime with her until she falls asleep, so she feels safer. The roommate laughs and says that if she hears a noise in the bathroom, at least it will be a ghost and not her locked in and passed out. Lydia just mouths to me that she'll explain later. When we get to Lydia's room, I ask her to explain. She tells me that this afternoon she wasn't feeling good and ended up fainting in the shower, so Jeff had to break the door to let her roommate get in and help her. She said that she already felt better and didn't want to tell me because I was going to be worried about nothing. I said that it wasn't nothing if she had fainted, and that I should be aware of these things to help her. She said that now it would just be a funny story about how Jeff broke the door and her roommate had to cover her with a towel so they could come to the rescue of her undressed body. That moment I saw red. I asked if Jeff had seen her without her clothes on, and she said that she couldn't be sure, since she was unconscious. But her roommate said that he stood out of the bathroom until she was covered. I asked if Lydia thought it was fair for me not to know that another guy had seen her undressed, and she said he didn't actually see her and that it shouldn't matter since he was only helping. I shouted that she just said she was unconscious and couldn't know if he saw her. She told me to be quiet, or they would hear me. I shouted that I didn't care, that a man just saw my girlfriend's body, and I had a right to be mad. Jeff and Lydia's roommate come in then and explain that he never saw anything. He just broke the lock and waited outside until her roommate gave him a clear. I said that I didn't believe him, and her roommate jumped to his defense, saying she was right there, making sure the situation wasn't embarrassing so they could take proper care of Lydia without her feeling weird. I said that even if Jeff's girlfriend is fine with being a cuckold, I wouldn't be. Jeff then shouted at me, saying I should respect his girlfriend and mine, who had spent a whole day saying that she was fine but still looked a bit pale. He said that he only did it because he cared about Lydia, that I was a jerk who didn't deserve any type of help. Hearing him say he cared about her was it for me. I left without as much as looking at Lydia, as she begged me not to go. Over the weekend, Lydia had to be admitted to a hospital, as she didn't feel good again. Jeff and Lydia's roommate prohibited me from seeing her, saying I didn't deserve her. Obviously, the whole hospital thing stinks, and I wish I was there for her, but I still think I was right. At this point, I'm not mad at Lydia anymore, just at Jeff. Edit. They agreed to let me see Lydia upon her asking them to. She said it would be best for us to be away from each other for a while. She is feeling better, and from what I heard, she is anemic, among other things, but she's going home this week. I'm not sure this OP deserves it, but I'm going to take a soft approach to this. I think insecurity is somewhat demonized online these days, and it shouldn't be. The reason it's looked down on is because it's associated with guys who act exactly like this. On its own, insecurity is a normal feeling. We don't control what we feel, but we do control how we react to it. I can sort of understand a guy feeling a bit insecure when another man says he cares about your girlfriend, but Jeff is dating Lydia's roommate. They see a lot of each other. Lydia is important to the woman he's dating, which makes her important to him. I think a lot of people would actually think much less of Jeff as a boyfriend if he didn't care about Lydia at all. So for that to be the final straw is out of line. And so is literally everything else about this story. The OP says he's upset that he couldn't be there for Lydia in the hospital, yet he's still focusing on the fact that he thinks he's right. Those are some pretty twisted priorities. When you hear that your girlfriend fainted in the shower, meaning she could have easily been severely injured, nothing else should matter. Even if Jeff had seen her, it only would have been because he was helping. If they had called an ambulance, the EMTs would have seen her as well. It's really no different. And at a time when this poor girl was dealing with sudden and unexpected health issues, there's hardly one line of that argument where this OP doesn't say he was shouting. You're the jerk. Use your time away from Lydia to work on your anger. And if she leaves you, keep working on yourself before subjecting another woman to your nonsense. I was accused of cultural appropriation for wanting a kimono. So, today I got an ad from Fresh Hoods on Facebook. It said I'd left something in my cart and gave me a code to get $15 off. I was surprised to see this ad was an actual post that I could comment on. So I responded, I left that in there 3 months ago, and you've been hitting up my spam folder ever since. Tracking me down on Facebook just makes you look like a jilted lover. I thought it was kind of funny, so I screenshotted it and posted it on my wall. Well, the ad included pictures of the items I'd left in my cart, and the first was a kimono. One of my friends asked why I'd been planning on buying a kimono in the first place. I answered truthfully. See, I've always felt like wearing clothes on laundry day is basically just wasting an outfit. I had just emptied the hamper, and now I have to keep putting clothes in there? That's stupid. This was all fine when I lived alone, but now I have 2 roommates. So now I have to keep wasting outfits, and I'm tired of it. The thing is, I can't wear a bathrobe because we sometimes get solicitors, and answering the door in a robe just feels tacky. So I thought I'd buy a nice kimono to look more presentable. But I left it in the cart because none of that shop's kimonos come with anything to sash it with. Note, I do plan on shirtballing the kimono, but leaving it all the way open feels unseemly. One of my roommates is a woman, and she's not trying to see all that, so I can't buy one without a sash. Another friend commented and said that wearing a kimono would still be wasting an outfit. I responded, I'm white. Where the heck am I going to wear it besides my own house? Well, all of a sudden, this post that had gone relatively ignored until then started blowing up with comments. The first friend called me racist, and everyone else followed suit. The part that got me was their reasons for calling me racist were conflicting. Some didn't like that I brought race into it at all, but a few said wanting the kimono was cultural appropriation. I really don't see how. There's a local Japanese tea ceremony every weekend where I live, but they charge admission, and I can buy tea anywhere. I'm not wearing the kimono outside of this house, but somehow this was bad enough that I've lost a handful of Facebook friends over it. My mom's on my side, but she's legitimately racist. She's also my mom, so I feel like I need more objective opinions. Am I the jerk for the way I responded, or for wanting a kimono in the first place? Is there something I'm just not seeing here? The comments on this one were interesting, and there wasn't really a consensus on whether this OP was a jerk or not. But it did come out that what he's buying isn't actually a kimono. That term is sometimes used for robe-like articles of clothing that bear no resemblance at all to the traditional Japanese garb. A real kimono would be highly expensive, to the point that you wouldn't want to use it as a bathrobe. He seemed open to learning this, so I'm going to say he's probably not too much of a jerk. However, there's one detail you might have missed if you didn't understand a particular term we used. This OP used a word from Deadpool 2 that isn't really YouTube friendly, so we had to change it. But all you need to know is that he plans on letting his manly bits spill out the bottom of this thing. Roaming around the house with your schnossage hanging out when you have 2 roommates is at least a bit of a jerk move. So that's something to consider. What do you think? Is he a jerk? Where do you put the line between embracing other cultures and appropriating them? And what about the other potential jerks in today's stories? Leave us a comment below and let us know your feelings on these stories. Please leave your stories in the comments. I'd love to make a video of them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.